Criminal prosecution runs on evidence, procedure, and facts you can prove. But JoDee Neil, a former prosecutor who handled crimes against children, she'll tell you straight up, intuition wasn't optional, it was essential. Welcome back to your Solid Business Podcast. I'm your host, Annick Monenfant, inner work strategist, and I empower conscious leaders to do the inner work that create their outer success. Today's guest is JoDee Neil, a former prosecutor who handled some of the most heartbreaking cases you can imagine. Crimes against children, crisis intervention, cases that would break most people. But here's what makes JoDee's story so powerful. She wasn't just prosecuting these cases, she was living a parallel life that would eventually transform her entire career path and redefine what it means to lead with both strategy and soul. JoDee is now a purpose-driven lawyer, advocate, keynote speaker, and author, helping survivors of sexual violence navigate disclosure with compassion and lived wisdom. And the journey from prosecutor to advocate, that's where we're going today. So let's dive in. JoDee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Let's start with your journey. You have had such a powerful career as a prosecutor and now as an advocate working closely with survivors. What role did intuition play in guiding you on this path?
Really everything. Intuition and light. Everything. I mean, there was no other way through it.
I can't even imagine having that capacity to go to that inner sanctuary when you are faced with the details and the images and the stories that you would have been faced with, and then needing to go home to your friends and family and being able to sustain yourself. It would have been such a necessary element for you to be able to manage still having joyful moments, knowing that there are such experiences happening in the world.
Yeah. The way that I survived, I started doing crimes against children when I was in my 20s. And I was a survivor at the same time, but had never disclosed. So I really had two parallel lives. What got me through it and what led me to persevere was the escape that I found in their horrors. I would go there with them, really dig for the sensory details and be able to close my eyes and connect with what they actually went through. Instead of running from it or just getting the details and getting out, I would spend hours and hours with these survivors and their families and live it with them so that I could tell the story to the jury through, really carefully structured question and answer formats. And it was really, looking back on it, the process of doing that work and saying the things that they needed to hear. You're brave, you're courageous, you're powerful. While at the same time, I'm saying them to myself, but I still haven't admitted that it's happened to me. It was a mind-blowing kind of a multiverse experience in those early years of doing these cases. So, my intuition just kept telling me, just escape, just go there with them and you're going to feel lighter. And I always have. And to me, that's, the greatest gift you can have as a human is to become invisible in the life of another person. Just turn it all off and immerse yourself in what they're saying. And it's just, that's how I've survived. And my intuition has told me to do that.
What would you say to somebody who's listening who feels pulled towards change, but isn't sure how to trust their intuition just yet?
That is a great question. And I find that the legal space is the perfect place to explore yourself and where your pain is. We've got to face our pain. We've got to face our fears of our pain too. There's the fear of our pain and there's the pain itself. And I find this is really evident in the injustice space. Watching the news and something's just getting to you, or reading the paper and something's just not right, or something keeps popping into your head about something that's happened to you and you just can't shake it. We're very good at compartmentalizing our pain, compartmentalizing our fears. We've got our little filing cabinet. I talk about this in the book. filing cabinet with folders and a lock on it. But the really important stuff is usually really clean and simple. You know, so and so hurt me, or this current event makes me feel bad. And why? Because I feel powerless. Because why? Because someone took my power when I was 7. If you really ask yourself a few simple questions, I talk in my book about crayons and construction paper, just getting it out like a 7-year-old, that's going to lead you to this massive relief, this wave of understanding of yourself. And, it's not until we actually say the truth about what's bothering us and what's happened to us. You have to say it. And even better, if you can say it and write it, that you can become free. And it's your intuition that leads you to this place where you can do that impactful inner work. It doesn't have to be a years long journey. It can literally be as simple as pen and paper, lipstick and paper, whatever, and paper. Just get it out.
Yeah. Okay. Pause for a second, because what JoDee just described is pillar 2 in action: intuition as strategic intelligence. Let me translate what just happened here. JoDee was working in one of the most logic-driven, evidence-based profession there is: criminal prosecution. You follow procedure, you present facts, you build cases based on what you can prove. But she discovered something most people in high-pressure leadership roles never learn. The data tells you what happened. Your intuition tells you what to do next. And here's what I want you to hear. JoDee's intuition wasn't telling her to escape the courtroom. It was telling her to escape into the survivor's experience, to trust that deep connection, that sensory awareness, that ability to feel what they felt. That was her strategic advantage. And this is what I mean when I say intuition isn't woo-woo. It's pattern recognition. It's your nervous system processing information faster than your conscious mind can articulate it. And in JoDee's case, it quite literally helped her win justice for children. So if you've been waiting for permission to trust that gut feeling in your next high-stakes decision, this is it. If JoDee can use intuition in a courtroom, you can use it in your business. All right, let's keep going. Understandably, law is emphasized on facts and reasoning. Myself, coming from a finance background, I know how uneasy professionals can feel about being open about intuition or inner work. How have you brought practices like prayer or journaling into your world?
I'm really more of a priestess, than I am a lawyer, because they're the same to me. My conclusion in my book says, "Dear God, please help me." Before all my closing arguments, I pray. I mean, it is such an intense channeling of divine pursuit. I know why I'm in the courtroom, and I'm not the only prosecutor who's done really serious cases who has had intense experiences akin to being an archangel. And, I am calling on God, on the universe, to give me the words that need to be spoken to persuade these jurors, or to convey the truth of what happened to these 12 people. It is a deeply spiritual experience. And I have seen the most powerful, it is otherworldly moments in the courtroom where you can feel truth. It's like a portal. I have had powerful experiences in the courtroom. I'm trying to convey emotional evidence and raw truth, what this person experienced. And I have to use my body. I have to feel with every cell in my being where I need to go. Do I ask that last question? Do I let the silence carry the moment? How do I approach the defendant if he chooses to testify? Do I go for the jugular right at first? I mean, you're just spot on. It is just a guiding light. That's what it is. It's a guiding light. It's like being in a cave and having one of those lights on your head. That is what your intuition is. It's one of those headlights.
Yeah.
Spelunkers use.
Exactly. And I love that analogy. I love that you brought that visual in, because for me, your intuition is like your headlight And your core values are like those little reflectors on the side of the highway so that you know you're on the right
Yeah.
path.
I have to have these visuals, otherwise it's just too esoteric. And I may think I'm like super smart, but I'm really pretty basic when it comes down to it. Like I have to see what's happening in my mind so I can explain it to people.
And I think all of us, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't really understand it.
It's
And I
true.
think,
Honestly, that may be my best gift is I figured out, and probably because I've worked with so many children and I have children of my own, I can't be fancy lawyer anymore. Everything that I say is, how do I explain this to a 7-year-old? They're really the wisest, purest people on our planet. They're pure truth. They're pure beauty, pure joy, pure love, pure everything. And if we structure what we say, what we want, our dreams to guide them as they continue to grow, then you really can't go wrong. I just think if we got to the bottom line, like you said, kept things simple, what assists with the protection and development of our most precious resource, which is our children, then do it. If it doesn't help kids or it doesn't make a difference, I just don't see the point. I'm not getting out of bed for that.
well, and I think you really speak to an underlying element of each and every one of us's will is what moves you to the point of getting up each and every day that's worthwhile. And that's
Right.
what really comes back to those core desires, those core values, and that sense of purpose and fulfillment that we all desire so deeply. Let me pause here because this is where so many people struggle with intuition. They think intuition means you don't prepare, that you just go with the flow and wing it. But that's not what JoDee just described. She had her questions, she had her structure, she had the evidence, but she left space for what wanted to emerge in the moment. That is pillar 3, energetic alignment. And it's the difference between pressure and overflow. And when you're working from pressure, you over prepare, you script everything, you try to control every variable because you don't trust yourself to handle what shows up. But when you're working from alignment, you prepare and you trust. You have structure and you leave space. You know your strategy and you listen to what the moment needs. JoDee could read the body language, the tone of their voice, what they weren't saying. Because she wasn't operating from a place of depletion, she was grounded enough, present enough, aligned enough to see what was actually happening in real time. And that's sustainable success. That's how you show up in high stakes moments without burning out. So if you're exhausted from over preparing, over controlling, trying to predict every outcome, this is your invitation to build capacity for overflow instead. All right, let's keep going because what JoDee shares next is powerful. JoDee, what's the most important thing you've learned about leading with integrity?
Yeah, we don't have to live this way. We don't have to just be cogs in someone else's machine.
I have a rapid fire round that I would love,
Ooh.
just for fun, that I would
Ooh.
love to finish off with so that our viewers can get to know you on a more personal and fun level.
Down.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Neither. Early bird.
You're more of an afternoon maven.
I love mid-morning. I love 8, 9, 10, 11. But I like to shut down
Yeah,
8, 9.
perfect. Well, that's a great answer. And you spoke to this a little bit, but it's in my rapid round. So, favorite grounding ritual before a big day in court?
Oh, I have a song. It's Snow Hey-O by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And if I'm going to trial, that's the song I listen to. It's been that way for 20 years.
Love it. I'm also a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. All right. So, what's one thing you wish more lawyers understood about the role of the inner work and intuition in building success in their fields?
Yeah, we don't have to live this way. We don't have to just be cogs in someone else's machine.
And one word that sums up how you lead today.
True.
Ooh, the truth shall set you free.
Preach.
Yeah, it's very in alignment too with your core values and this purpose that you're leaning into. So that feels really in resonance. JoDee, thank you so much for sharing your story and for reminding all of us that intuition, it's not separate from strategy. It's what allows us to lead with courage, with compassion, with integrity, even in the hardest moments.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. What an incredible conversation. JoDee Neil just proved something most people refuse to believe. Your intuition isn't separate from your strategy. It is your strategy. She used prayer and journaling in a courtroom. She trusted her gut in jury trials. She read survivors' body language and tone of voice to know what questions to ask in the moment. And she won justice because of it. But here's what I really want you to take away from this episode. JoDee's story isn't about intuition and high stakes environment. It's about something deeper, about what happens when you trust that inner knowing, even when the external world says it's not logical, not strategic, not professional. Because the pattern that keeps so many successful people stuck, the pattern I see every single day in my work is this. You keep showing up for everyone else and you forget that you matter too. You sacrifice yourself on the altar of other people's needs. You define yourself by how much you give. And you measure success by how depleted you are at the end of the day. But here's the truth. You can't build sustainable success from depletion. You can't lead from overflow if you're running on empty. And at some point, your body, your energy, your soul, they're going to demand that you listen. So if you're in a season right now where something feels off, where success looks good on paper but feels heavy in your body, pay attention to that. That's your intuition trying to get your attention. Now, if you resonated with JoDee's story today, if you heard yourself in her journey, I want you to know that the You and Your Soul-Led Business programs exist for exactly this reason. We help you identify the pattern that's keeping you stuck, decode your values, strengthen your intuitive discernment, and build the strategy to actually execute on your vision. Because inner work without strategy is just therapy, and strategy without inner work is just burnout. So when you bring them together, that's prosperity without compromise. Find the link in the show notes below, the link for my free soul-led productivity toolkit, and you'll also find the link to the You and Your Soul-Led Business program. And connect with JoDee, learn more about her book, and follow her advocacy work. You'll find her links below in the show notes too. But before you go, if this episode landed for you, leave a 5-star review and tell me which moment hit home. Your review helps this podcast reach more soul-led leaders who are ready to start performing success and start living it. Until next time, trust your intuition, take aligned action, and keep leading.